Thanks everyone for attending. I expect to have a great kickoff here to this Lightworks virtual trade show. And I wanted to discuss just a handful of things with you. It's going to be very quick, our time together here. So hopefully we can get through this as quick as possible and leave time for plenty of questions because you may have questions about what we're going to talk about today. I wanted to kick off firstly with just talking about kind of explaining our ecosystems. This is a key word these days in the hybrid environment or whatever. The more established ecosystem we can have, usually the better off our systems can be. So you may or may not be aware that earlier this year, excuse me, wow, not this year, last year, we acquired STEM Audio. And STEM really brings something to the table that the Shure ecosystems just wasn't there. It was going to take us a long time, in fact, to get there. STEM really brought some great things. It's really the idea of just making effortless communication set up, and it should be easy. So, the idea again here of that vision is to create the audio ecosystem that's made up of building blocks. It's easily specialized to audio endpoints. They seamlessly work together, right? Wow, what a concept. Can we get stuff that just works together? Yep, we can do that with STEM. And it should be able to integrate intuitively also with a powerful user interface. Now, when it comes to STEM, I love this. Sometimes marketing just gets it right. In this case, I think they did. There is a ceiling microphone product. It's called STEM Ceiling. There's a wall microphone product. It's called the STEM Wall. There's a STEM table microphone product. It goes on the table. There's a hub that connects all the devices together where I have more than one device in a room. If I have two, maybe a mix and match of different things, I use a hub to bring all that together. There's also a loudspeaker where we can use loudspeakers to finish off that ecosystem, and then even a control touch panel there. It's not required, although it does bring some extra efficiency to your system, not only in setting up, but also testing and checking. These devices, you can add up to 10 of them and mix and match any which way you want to. STEM really is meant to bring that effortless, quick and easy setup. It's more cost effective. Maybe I put a wall up by the display and I have a table unit on the table. Note that the table and the wall both have speakers built in as well. USB connectivity on everything. Everything is powered via RJ45 connection over Ethernet. And then again, like I said, the STEM hub can bring more than one device all together and have them operate flawlessly. Perhaps one of the coolest things about the setup for this is that once I plug all my gear in, I actually can do a room adapt where zips and zaps come out of the loudspeakers and the microphones listen, and it literally gives me kind of a heat map and an expectation of how good my room is operating. I can run a check even after that if I have a complaint about that room, I can run a room check and make sure all the components are actually working. These are quick and simple and easy to do. This is what STEM was founded on. How can we make it simple and easy? And I think they've hit the mark. But a lot of folks say, well, then when do I purchase a STEM ecosystem versus a Microflex ecosystem? Which is a great question. Some of you may be familiar with like our MXA 910 or the 310 table array, which is what you're hearing me on today. Even the new MXA 710 array. This could be summed up in one kind of term here, is that this is a precision-based ecosystem. When you need best-in-class performance and you need precise, completely configurable systems, that's where Microflex ecosystem comes into play. Maybe I've got a control system. Maybe it's a much more integrated type system. That is a Microflex ecosystem versus the STEM ecosystem. So just to kind of remind everybody, remember, Microflex is very wide and deep in its product offerings, whether it's our ceiling arrays, our table arrays, our processing for DSP, even wireless, and then our software offerings with Designer to set the whole thing up, or System On audio asset management. It's a very much a much more a complex type of configuration when you need precision-based ecosystems. Don't forget though that last year we actually introduced a new linear array microphone when maybe you can't have table mics because nobody wants anything on the table, and a square ceiling array doesn't fit the look. The MXA 710 is now really, frankly, um, it's the most adaptable microphone array we've built. It can go in many different configurations. It can go on the table, on the wall, on the ceiling, and in many different configurations. There's a 2-foot version and a 4-foot version. We also introduced a loudspeaker to kind of round out that offering, that we could get end-to-end audio from microphone to playback and have everything set up as the ecosystem. We also introduced accessories like the MXA Mute. Most interestingly, we introduced our IntelliMix Room processing software. This is a complete DSP suite that is software that installs right on an in-room PC that's already running like Teams rooms or Zoom rooms. Again, it's DSP software that runs on the in-room compute that already lives there. There's no extra hardware needed. So when you think about this, we have PoE for our microphones. We have PoE for our loudspeakers. There's no amplifier anymore for loudspeakers. And now I can get rid of the DSP box because it lives on the same compute that's already in the room. We no longer have to go searching for space to build racks and extra HVAC for cooling or all this kind of stuff. And that's really kind of where I wanted to head today, is more information on IntelliMix Room software, because it's software, we get to keep updating it. And all the updates are free. These firmware updates you keep getting free, and there are new features and things that go on the software. So let's talk a little bit about version 3.1. Yep, we're already up to 3.1. By the way, one of those features is that now it is certified for Microsoft Teams. And in this configuration, we have an MXA 910, an MXN 5C for loudspeaker. All the processing is happening on the Crestron UC C100T compute that's already in that room. IntelliMix Room lives there. This is a Microsoft Teams certified bundle, and it's ready to go. Other updates. This is a huge one. This is really big, and it's perhaps one of the best selling points today for IntelliMix Room, if there wasn't already some other great influence here of why you may want to use IntelliMix Room. But AI denoiser. This is a feature that has just been added, and a lot of times people ask for noise reduction. Okay, noise reduction is part of the circuitry here. In fact, you can see, if I point it out, we have noise reduction circuit on all of our inputs here in R. What noise reduction does, though, is it gets rid of steady state noise. Like, for instance, I've got a pretty noisy switch running back here with fans and everything. Hopefully my noise reduction is kicking that out and you're not able to hear the fan whirling away. It'll get rid of other PC fans, maybe projector fan noise, HVAC noise, anything that's steady state. AI denoiser is very different. AI denoiser is meant to get rid of the dynamic noises in the room, like, for instance, pen clicking or keyboard typing or potato chip bag rattling. All this stuff really distracts the far end as you're listening in. I'm sure you've all experienced it, how distracting it can be. And AI denoiser is trained to get rid of those noises. By the way, all of the learning happens at Shure Labs, okay? We don't listen to anything going on in a room. We actually do all of our learning inside of Shure, and then those updates come as firmware updates to your IntelliMix Room installation, that software living on that in-room compute. There's 3 different levels: low, medium, and high, and it really, really works really well, especially when you have the ability to adjust its aggressiveness. We think our AI denoiser, by the way, this is something I think that's fairly new to our industry. It's not new to the world. There's other things using denoisers or AI denoisers learning, but I think we're the first DSP that's offering this. And ours really hangs together really well and keeps the voice intact. A lot of them are very destructive and kind of, disturbing the voice. Ours really helps keep the voice intact. And the good news is we're going to have a demo of that right now. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to stop sharing my screen just so maybe you can Not that I'm vain and you want me to look at me, but I want you to see what I'm going to do. I'm going to pin click here, and you might hear some artifacting and stuff going on there, but as I'm pin clicking and I'm talking, you probably should be able to hear that pin clicking. I am now going, if I don't mute my mic, and just in time for my computer to go to sleep, of course. Hang on. Okay, AI denoiser. We are going to activate AI denoiser now. Now it's activated. And all of that pin clicking should go away. In fact, you should still be able to hear my voice loud and clear, even though the pin is closer to the microphone. And you should hear very little artifacting going on there. But again, pin clicking going away. I'm going to turn AI denoiser off. Here's AI denoiser off. And as I talk with AI denoiser off, and I'm going to turn it back on, AI denoiser is back on, clicking the pin. So how about those guys that just can't stand it? They've got to sit close by and click on their keyboards and make noise. This keyboard happens to be a little bit quiet. I tried to find a really loud one. It seems like the people who are in the meetings that click on their keyboards have really loud keyboards. But I'm going to turn AI denoiser on. Here's AI denoiser on while I'm clicking and talking at the same time. Clicking and talking. And I'm going to turn AI denoiser back off. And again, talking over it. And I'm going to turn AI denoiser back on. Here we go. AI denoiser is on. Here's my clicking. So one of the very interesting things that we run into all the time are the potato chip bag rattlers. This is about one of the most ugly things that happens in meetings. I'm hungry. I got to dig into snacks. By the way, if you don't know about Dots, oh, never mind. It's not a shirt. I love these, by the way. Dots pretzels. Yeah, it's a real problem. Now, if I turn AI denoiser on, I'm crinkling the bag and I'm talking at the same time, crinkling, talking, and as I crinkle the bag, maybe even try to open it, turning AI denoiser off. There's our AI denoiser off. And of course, this is just horrible when it comes into meeting etiquette, right? So there are lots of different opportunities for AI denoiser. Doors slamming, obviously. We've had questions about dogs barking or even little kid crying. Trust me, I know how that works. I got 3 of them here. We're not quite there yet with those learning necessarily, but wanted to knock the ones out that were the most obvious and challenging in each room with AI denoiser. Listen, I was a little bit worried about trying to get through everything in time, but I know that there's some Q&A going on here and some stuff in the chat. Hey, look at that. Shelly says, can the AI denoiser handle one-off noises like a door slam? It can at this point. It can work on door slams. What is the range of the AI denoiser? Matt, I'm not quite sure what your question is entailing. The range, is that distance? Is that a frequency range? Maybe you can chime in and further clarify your question. Caesar, so does someone have to moderate the meeting and turn this feature on and off? Oh, that's a great question. Absolutely not. So just for fun, let me go ahead and turn AI denoiser on, and I'm just going to leave it on, right? This is just like turning on noise reduction filters or setting your AEC parameters or your parametric EQ. If you want to use AI denoiser, just turn it on and let it be. It's configured in the system, in the software, and you're ready to go. So right now it's on and it's ready to go. What's the range? Oh, sorry. Michael, can you clap your hands and talk with the AI denoiser? Let's see. It's very dry here, so let's see how this works. Clapping my hands and talking with this on. I have no idea how this, I have never done it. So I'll have to listen back to the recording and see how this works. I'll turn the AI denoiser off now. clapping and talking over the clapping. Looks like I might be clipping the input of my microphone, by the way. AI denoiser back on, clapping. Okay, it looks like it's working. Hopefully it sounds okay. Room size. If the question is regarding,
That goes
yeah,
back to the range of the AI denoiser.
okay. There's no specific range associated with the AI denoiser. It's simply what kind of sound am I hearing? Um, for instance, again, the dog barking, the AI denoiser currently is not learned that sound. But if your microphone hears potato chip bag rattling and it's obvious enough, it will cancel it out. It's not really a range related issue. Greg, is the dull roar of a ceiling HVAC system play into this? Or is that more of a noise reduction system? Greg, that's a good question. And if you have a room that has problems with steady state noise like HVAC, you're going to want to use noise reduction to cancel out that noise. That's steady state noise. It kind of rumbles along and does its thing. The noise reduction circuitry is really good at filtering out those noises. The AI denoiser, on the other hand, is the more dynamic thing, like we've just experienced with the pen clicking and the potato chip bag rattling or the key clicking kind of thing. Kevin says my home office, second story, gets very hot and has many fans running, PC fans, desk fans, ceiling fans, and a fish tank noise. Wow. How well does it handle those issues? Again, that those types of noises typically are more steady state noise. And that's a noise reduction circuitry kind of thing. Think more about this dynamic stuff. Like I just brought lunch in for everybody, and now we're trying to have a meeting, and somebody's grabbing those potato chip bags and wrestling, but we're still trying to have a meeting live, right? Whereas the steady state noise, I have no idea if this will work. Like I said, I've got a couple of fans whirling behind me. I can turn off noise reduction on several units here and see if we can hear a difference. Disable. You may not be able to hear the difference. Um, but now you may be able to hear some of the steady state noise in the room with the noise reduction circuitry turned off. And I'm going to turn it back on. Enable. There we go. So there's noise reduction circuitry re-enabled on our IntelliMix room. How does it work? What's it looking for? Well, William, it has learned certain characteristics of sounds, like the sound of a pen clicking, which, oops, you can't hear because I have AI denoiser on. Turn it off. That distinct sound has been learned in Shure Labs, and the AI denoiser is applying algorithms to get rid of that specific pen clicking. Same thing with the potato chip bag. Those are sounds that the algorithm has learned. And by the way, this is a completely from the ground up Shure algorithm. It's not bought or purchased or licensed from anybody else. It's completely a Shure algorithm where we go into the lab and we teach the algorithm new sounds to learn that have to try to cancel out. I will say that just like noise reduction, the AI denoiser can be destructive. They are destructive to the audio signal. Noise reduction is literally hacking away at frequencies, trying to get rid of that steady state noise. And if that noise, that steady state noise, is up into the vocal band, you'll hear it start to give artifacting in the voice. AI denoiser can also be destructive. So the game here is how non-destructive does the algorithm actually sound. So like I said, AI denoising is not something new to the world. We just think ours works really good for conferencing because we are trying to keep the speech band intact and have it sound very natural while removing these other noises. Is there a list of sounds that it knows? Looks like Brandon may be typing. We do have a handful of things that we're looking at actually putting in the user guide to tell you what they are. So watch for that. What about removing the Zoom chime? I love that. I think those could be meeting settings in Zoom. But seriously, I don't know. Maybe that's something we should look into. Thanks for that, John. And then Kevin says, does using the software with a lower quality mic produce the same benefits, or does it have a harder time reducing speech quality? I don't know that we've tested it with any other microphones other than Shure microphones. And oh my gosh, I should tell you, my signal path is very simple. I have an MXA310 table array that I'm using, you're hearing me on. There are 4 cardioid patterns deployed. I only need one, but I deployed all of them so that the microphone and the DSP has a harder time to try to get rid of all the noise in the room. So anyway, MXA310 going to a network switch that then goes to my my NUC that is hosting this Zoom meeting right now. So again, my computer that I'm on the Zoom meeting right now has IntelliMix Room DSP software installed on it. So the audio goes through the DSP software on the NUC that gets fed off to Zoom. Zoom returns the signal from you guys back to me, which then goes to my network and then to my network loudspeaker that's sitting here. So basically 3 Shure components here: the MXA310, IntelliMix Room software on the NUC that's running the Zoom meeting, and then the PoE MXN5C loudspeaker. So that's kind of the configuration. Stephen, are we able to teach it specific sounds of something not on the list? We have to do that at Shure Labs. One thing that we are not interested in doing is listening in to anybody's environment. We don't want to start sending things up to the cloud. So if you have requests right now, I would say the best thing to do with your requests is send those to like Brandon or myself or whoever your Shure contact may be. You can go through Lightworks, let somebody know, and our growing list of things for AI denoiser will get added to that list most likely. What about open areas? So this is a good question. What first comes to mind in open areas that I'm concerned with is most systems, well, let me rephrase that. All systems have no way to detect what person talking is the one that should be being heard on the far end. So first things first, if you have other folks talking in that space, that can add to not a good far end experience. Now, if I have an open space that has a kitchen right next to me, where there's clanking of silverware and other noise going on, yes, this can help with that. But again, as far as getting rid of speech, that's a hard thing for any system to do, and that's why none of them do it yet, figuring out which one is the person that needs to be transmitted to the far side. Noise, of course, that's a different story. We can get rid of noise. I think I'm towards the end of my time now here, right on it. Let's see, we got one more question. Kevin says, to what extent does a group of barking dogs or very loud chirping birds cancel out? Sudden sounds versus constant sounds. You hit the nail on the head. First of all, I'll answer the last part first. AI denoiser is dynamic. It's constantly looking for those sounds to cut out. It's not just applying a block filter and you're done. AI denoiser is dynamic. In fact, if I pick up a bag of chips, that sounds different. I gotta enable it. That sounds different than my keyboard clicking, right? Which could be going on at the exact same time. So that's how that works. And I would encourage you, by the way, everyone can, you're able to download and check out a trial version. Check it out for 90 days, see what you think. If you're using that Crestron UC engine and you're a Teams Rooms house, hey, you could have a certified solution if you're using Shure MXA mics. But check it out. Reach out to us if you have any other questions.